It's the Benz Brunani womanist. Baby boys, baby girls, you need to hear this. If you sit down, receive this realness. Make sure your cup's ready for the tea, we are go sip it, yo. Hot time scrolling for your long shorts. You might learn something you never know. Collect you fine, and she's one of a kind. Don't say you're mine, say you're mine.
Hey patrons, hey baby girls, baby boys, baby non-binaries, welcome to our extended content for just us. So to refresh your memory, we were talking about the mother soul. That's the card that we were looking at, the mother soul card, where she balances everybody else's emotions and people come to her for healing all of the time, coming to take her energy. And we pulled the card of the Five of Cups initially. The Five of Cups initially, talking about the disappointment. If you're the mother soul energy right now, at this moment in your life, the Five of Cups energy, focusing on the 3 cups that have fallen, ignoring the 2 cups that are still standing, wallowing in the disappointment that you felt, whether it's in a relationship or in yourself, like, you're wallowing in that and not realizing that there are other ways, there are other things that will bring you more joy. We pulled a disappointment card last week in the 8 of Cups and walking away from disappointment. Yeah, the 5 of Cups came up to kind of say, nah, some of you have proper said, I'm not walking away. I'm still going to be in my feelings about all of this shit. And at the bottom of the deck is the 3. 3 of Cups. 3 of Cups is the card that's at the bottom of the deck. And basically, I feel like it's a gentle reminder from our spirit guides that stop. Like, look, babes, you've got 2 cups still standing. And then these men are like partying with 3 cups. Like, all you need is one person to bring an extra cup and you've got a motherfucking party. Like, you can enjoy yourself, but you can't see the enjoyment that's possible for you because look, you're facing away and you're looking at the spilt cups and you're being all there. You're being upset when if you just looked over here, you'd see that there's a great time to be had with friends, with family, with people who bring yourself joy. And remember that the mother soul card says that find other mother souls to rejuvenate you. I feel like these are the mother souls. These are them. Like, people will disappoint you. There are people that just come into your life to take your energy. But if you can locate other mother souls, that's not necessarily that they're going to be women. There might be men as well. If you can locate other mother soul energies, this is what will happen. You can celebrate together and you can rejuvenate and energize each other. And that's what's possible for you if you stop focusing on the disappointment of people who have taken from you and left you high and dry. So I hope that resonates with you for this week. Because it matters. It really, really matters. Anyway, moving on to the article that I wanted to discuss this week. I said it was written by Ara, and I massacred her last name, but it's Ara. Let me try and say it again. Ara Iloa Bujichuku. Yes. And the article is titled "The Strained Relationship Between Black Mothers and Their Daughters." And it says, I know my mother loves me, not because she was the most loving, affectionate mother in the world or because she was fluent in all 5 love languages, but mainly because I choose to believe that everything my mother did, she did out of love, even the things that didn't feel too much like love. Growing up, my mother had 3 jobs: provide the necessities, keep me from being fast, and remind me that we weren't friends. And boy, did she do her job so well that at times it felt like being her child was just as much of a job as her being my mother. For a while, I thought it was just my childhood experience that left me longing for the dark-skinned Aunt Viv meets Claire Huxtable mother that I never had. But as I became an adult, I found that the relationship dynamic between my mother and I was far more common than I'd anticipated. This secretive, temperamental, unapologetic, tough love expert wasn't just my mum. She was a lot of our mums. As I found myself sitting amongst friends, exchanging stories about whooping so severe they took your breath away, I couldn't help but wonder how long we'd normalize maternal abuse in our community. After all, this was abuse, right? Sure, our mothers weren't locking us in the attic, but we'd be lying if we said a lot of a lot of them didn't use discipline as their personal stress reliever. And if we deemed these behaviors normal, what was the likelihood we were guilty of them as well, perpetuating a cycle of abuse towards our daughters simply because we made it out all right? When did maternal toxicity in the home become the acceptable standard, and why had the Black community been so hesitant to condemn it? Black mothers certainly love their daughters, so why did it appear that they didn't like them? A lot of our mothers are the reasons we don't get along with other Black women. And a lot of their mothers are the reasons they didn't know any better. I was raised in a home where I learned two things about women very early on. The first being that they were not to be trusted. And the second thing being that you didn't keep too many around. Although my mother had friends that were women, she often spoke of them with distrust and anxiousness. Despite her reservations, I knew my mother to keep a moderately active social life, laughing and dancing with women she thought ultimately wanted to see her unhappy, which taught me a great deal about keeping my friends close and enemies closer, but absolutely nothing about forging healthy, positive relationships with other women. And the way my mother was just chopping at the bit to cut any of them off taught me even less about the work that's required to maintain the friendships you build. Yeah, it goes in. I don't want to read you the entire fucking article, intellectual property and that. But please go and check it out. It's on Madame Noir, and I'll provide the link on Patreon so you can check it out. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that Black women came for her with such severity. They came at her with the whole not all vibe. Not all Black mothers did that. Maybe your mum, I'm sorry you had such a sad experience, but we didn't all have that experience. Like, fam, she made it clear that she wasn't saying all mothers. She said, but from what she's learned from her friends, she's talking about her immediate interactions with other women. Black women, they've also experienced the same thing. She's speaking on that. She isn't saying all Black mothers are bad mothers. She's speaking on a particular experience that I can relate to. There is a poem that I put up pretty much every Mother's Day that says, cruel mothers are still mothers. They make us wars. They make us revolutions. Sometimes mothers don't give birth to their children, they give birth to their pain, or something like that. It's by Naira Waheed, obviously, because you know I love her poetry. And that poem, the first time I read it, it punched me in the fucking gut, because I was just like, that's it. That is it. Some parents, some mothers give birth to their pain. And when they see you, all they see is their pain, and they react to you in the way that they're reacting to their pain. It's nothing personal, but they are also dealing with trauma. I think that this is what she was trying to highlight, that it's almost a generational thing where we've carried it. We've carried that burden, and as well as, you know, the toxic patriarchy that we exist within, that tells us that a man is the ultimate prize, where women are fighting each other, even fighting their daughters and their sisters for men, you know, for not even for the same man, but for the idea of approval from men. And I feel like that plays a part in this. I read to you a bit from Bell Hooks' Communion, the Female Search for Love last week. Bell Hooks talks about that in Communion. Toni Morrison talks about that in Sula, Beloved, The Bluest Eye. I could go on. Alice Walker talks about that. In fact, Alice Walker, in a documentary about Rebecca Walker, her daughter, she alludes to the fact that she was that kind of mother to Rebecca. And that's why Rebecca doesn't chat to her. Well, from the last I heard, Rebecca Walker doesn't talk to Alice Walker. She doesn't talk to her mum, one of our literary greats. She doesn't chat to her. These things are important. The fact that other women have had these experiences with their Black mothers, and it is something to do with the trauma that we've been carrying in terms of generations. So how dare you try to shut her down, because what you're doing is actually a case of respectability politics, and it speaks to the silencing and secrecy that she's alluding to in her article. The fact that we hold parents, mothers up in this way, that even holding them up there, they want to get down. A lot of mothers just want to be women. And yet they have this burden of being mother, of being all-knowing, of getting everything right, all enduring. And that is stressful in itself. How many people have sat down and like looked at their mum and gone, rah, I would suggest you go to therapy because you've carried so much. And I'm here thinking about the trauma that I feel like you inflicted upon me. But what about your trauma? What about the trauma that you're carrying? We don't speak enough about that. And that's important. So I had a conversation with my therapist last week, when we're talking about forgiven for what. And I said that I guess the reason that I rush to forgive people in the way that I do is because so many things happened in my childhood, the conditions that I was living in. I had to grow up from like the age of 7 or 8. I had to be a mother to myself and my 2 brothers because my mum just couldn't meet us in that way. She couldn't be present with us in that way, emotionally. And I feel that if I don't practice forgiveness in the way that I've been practicing it, rushing to forgive people, how do I forgive her and how do I move on? How do I move on from there? It's difficult. And my therapist was just like, you don't have to forgive her because she just couldn't do what was expected of her. That doesn't need forgiveness. It needs acceptance. Acceptance is very different from forgiveness. You can't forgive something that she wasn't aware of. Like she wasn't aware of it. It wasn't malicious in that respect. She just couldn't be that mother. So what you have to accept is that she couldn't be that mother and start working on where do you go from here? And these are the kind of conversations that we should be having about articles like this rather than not all black mothers. And I understand why people do that because it's just like, oh, we don't want white people to now be like, oh, and black mothers are shit. Fine. But it's still a conversation that we need to have. And so where should Ara have put up this article, if not Madame Noir, if not on the internet, so we can have this conversation? Because you know what? A shitload of black women on my Facebook page were retweeting that, agreeing with her. So that means that it's real for quite a lot of people, even if it isn't real for you. So why don't you respect the fact that it's a reality for a lot of people and understand that they're carrying that pain of never knowing the kind of mother that they see everywhere advertised to us? I propose that many people don't actually know that mother because that mother doesn't exist, and it's also another tool that's used against women to keep us within the confines of what's expected of us as a gender. So I propose that. But on the flip side, there are women who are closer to that narrative than others. Who knows? But I'll post a link. Have a read of the article. Let me know what you think, and let's discuss it in the comment section because I'd be interested to know what your experiences are, as much as you're willing to share them, of black motherhood. Even if you're a mother yourself, how you found that process from being mothered and then now being a mother. I think it'll be an interesting thing for us to discuss because I have all of the things to say. So thank you so much for watching this extra content. I appreciate you supporting me week after week, and helping me to create this content for you. It means a lot to me. I'm wishing you a very, very fantastic week, and I'll be catching you patrons later. Peace.
It's the Benz Punani womanist, baby boys, baby girls, you need to hear this. If you sit down, receive this realness. Make sure your cup's ready for the tea, we are go sip it, yo. Hot time scrolling for your long shorts. You might learn something you never know. Collect you fine, and she's one of a kind. Don't say you're mine, say you're mine.